But Wazu enters and sees the shadow of the man who's been waiting for him all this time. As the suspenseful greeting ensues, the guildmaster, who is also the owner of Breeze of Light Inn, Reagan, introduces himself to the F-ranked adventurer. Obviously, Wazu is shocked upon hearing his name because it also means that this man right here is Lula's father, and it is light years away before Wazu can accept it. When Emma leaves the room, Reagan thanks the young man for saving his family from the rampage of Black Blaze yesterday. But Wazu replies with the million-dollar question, is he really Lula's dad? Of course, Reagan says yes while revealing that Kayla is his wife, causing Wazu to go out of control as he calls the guild master names like Baldy and Old Goat, yelling his suspicions that Lula is not Reagan's biological daughter, but instead a child from Kayla's previous marriage. To his disappointment, Lula is Reagan's true child, and Kayla is genuinely in love with him, so Wazu can only cry, and all of the poster girl's actions finally make sense, given that her father is the guild master. As the final blow, Wazu realizes that Reagan is the inn's owner, so he forgives him because of his delicious cooking, and begs to hurry and give the quest. Before that, Reagan informs Wazu that no one is taking the high-level missions now due to the Black Blaze's hospitalization, and even though he's not blaming the boy for it, this F-ranked adventurer is the only one who can be relied on for this mission, especially because he is a dragon tamer. Thus, Reagan informs Wazu about the dragon sighting on a nearby hill 2 weeks ago and asks him to find every possible information about the entity, as well as subjugate it if possible. Wazu accepts the job almost immediately despite the dangers, and it seems like it's the right choice because the reward for it is a staggering 30 gold coins, leaving Wazu with vast money remaining as a change after the guild card payment. Well, the guy is confident he can one-punch a dragon, so Reagan offers advice for the quest preparation, but Wazu asks for just a map and nothing else, saying anything other than that is a burden. After learning he can get one from Emma, Wazu calls Reagan Mr. Balding and hurriedly runs for his life, leaving the guildmaster worried until he remembers his daughter trusting the F-ranked adventurer's strength. Afterward, Wazu secures his food and water rations until some townsfolk see him and focus their attention and praises to Mir, who becomes quite famous in this city. Eventually, Wazu returns to the inn, where he tells Kayla about discovering Lula's father's identity too late, only to receive laughter with some water and sandwiches. He then leaves while carrying the thoughts of Kayla being already taken when a girl suddenly bumps into him. Following that are the voices of goons on the hunt for the woman whom they call Tata, leading Wazu to offer help to this stranger, who he assumes is getting chased by evil pursuers. Thus, they hide in an alleyway while keeping track of the men's movements, who eventually give up because they're sure that Tata will return to a particular mansion. Wazu senses the bad vibe the pursuers emit, but everything is safe now, so he introduces himself to the woman who recognizes him as the adventurer who defeated the Black Blaze yesterday. Yeah, Mir is getting popular. But unlike other citizens, the woman in the cloak focuses on Wazu himself, specifically on his name, which sounds lovely to Tata as she then reveals her face and name to the adventurer, captivating the heavens out of Wazu, who stares at the woman with admiration. Tata offers to repay the guy for saving her, but unfortunately, Wazu has to go on his quest, so that will be delayed until he gets back. However, the young man who wants a harem simply wishes for Tata to tell him more about herself instead. Moreover, Wazu reminds Tata to be careful of the evil pursuers, showing kindness to the woman he just met, all because the F-ranked adventurer can't leave this girl who wears a sad expression on her face alone. After the protagonist-worthy phrase, Wazu heads to the nearby hill for the quest and waves goodbye to Tata, hoping they can meet one more time. Afterward, Wazu arrives at the gates where the good old Orlando is guarding, but it seems like Wazu needs a few seconds to remember who on earth he is. Either way, Orlando learns that Wazu is on a dragon-slaying quest with such light equipment, so he advises him to form a strong party first and bring a reliable weapon. But the adventurer runs away, so Orlando can only hope everything will be fine. Not too long after, Wazu reaches the area but finds out that the specific place on the map is still a bit far from where they currently are. Therefore, he needs to sprint his way toward the particular hill, but it seems like Mir wants to show him something first as she makes their lunch disappear and reanimates it once again, like a magic trick. Amazed by the dragon princess's ability that he discovers too late, Wazu hugs Mayar while sobbing and telling her she might be his future bride in the end. The dragon princess feels delighted by those words, so she flies in the open fields beside the running human while greeting the fantastic sight of the sun setting. In this vast world, Wazu wonders where he can meet that one friend who will stay with him forever. Well, he has someone like Ragnir and Mir. Don't they count, Wazu? Soon after, the two reach their destination but see no dragon anywhere except Mir, of course. Suddenly, Wazu catches sight of a cave and calls the dragon to check if he or she is there, only to receive a familiar stare lurking in the shadows, recognizing Wazu and asking him if he is here per her husband's request. After all, the beast meeting these two is Ragnir's angry wife, who mysteriously refuses to return to her spouse even though no one here asks her to. Regardless, Wazu is quite shocked to see Mel, who is in a bad mood here. What sin is it this time, Dragon King? Even Wazu is getting confused as to why the Dragon Queen is acting like this, so he tries to calm her down by mentioning Mir, but that doesn't seem to be effective, leading Wazu to clear the suspicions that it's Ragnir who sends him here. He assumes that the two are having a fight, but Mel doesn't treat the situation as a mere couple quarrel, and she reveals her plan to leave Ragnir for good and live here in her birthplace. Thanks to that, Wazu learns that the hill is the Dragon Queen's hometown, and he finally tells her about his purpose in coming here, which is to investigate a dragon sighting. Therefore, Wazu plans to report to Reagan that the creature is not a violent winged beast, but the ever-kind Mel. Hearing those words calms the Dragon Queen, so Wazu bravely asks why she's here when the castle in the mountain should be her home. Mel feels happy that Wazu is willing to listen to her worries, but she cries while recalling the events, and ultimately reveals that Ragnir has cheated on her with a younger red dragon. Enraged, Wazu wonders why the Dragon King did such a thing when he already has a beautiful wife and daughter, and this guy even bet his non-existent money that Mel is a real beauty when she turns into a human. Putting everyone's wish aside, Wazu asks Mel if it's possible for her to reconcile with Ragnir for Mir's sake, and it seems like it's not impossible when the Dragon King apologizes. Then, Wazu finds out that Mel has no definite proof that her husband has cheated because she doesn't ask him about it and just witnesses a scene of the Dragon King getting closer to another female dragon. With a thumbs up, Wazu swears to bring Ragnir here so they can talk about the issue properly and offers to be a witness of their discussion. In response, Mel acts like she's forced to accept the suggestion, even though it's clear as day that this Dragon Queen is excited. Before heading to the castle, Wazu leaves Meyer to her mother, because the mountain is pretty far, after all, so the adventurer sprints toward the destination alone. His kindness never fails to show, and Mel notices that, of course, and she wishes for Ragnir to learn a bit from the young man. After a not-so-long journey, Wazu arrives in the castle and yells the Dragon King's name to find where he is, only to discover that Ragnir is lying in a position that shows his shame and dejection. He's pretty surprised after seeing Mir is not with Wazu though, so Wazu informs him that she's with Mel, who is in her home because the Dragon King has cheated on her. However, Ragnir doesn't think he has committed such a thing, and demands Wazu to tell him where his wife is, not even having any plan to apologize to Mel, because this prideful dragon wants to order her to come back, and that's it. Now you know where to go where you want to be a good husband, and it's not Ragnir. Thus, Wazu scolds his hopeless plan and asks the whole story of Ragnir's sinful endeavors. Turns out, a female dragon named Karel, who the king admits is attractive, is inviting him to several meals and is clearly making advances on the married dragon, who is not refusing her too. So Mel catches them in action, and you know what happens next. But while Wazu is angered by the foolishness of the Dragon King, Ragnir, on the other hand, still has no idea why he should apologize to Mel. Wazu puts his title aside and imagines a fake scenario where the Dragon Queen is getting intimate with a young male dragon, but Ragnir lets out a fire breath before he can even finish. Still, Wazu continues the hypothetical situation where Ragnir leaves after witnessing the incident, and Mel just orders him to come back without an apology. He then tells Ragnir to be honest about what he'll feel when that happens, so the Dragon King realizes that he will not like it and become more stubborn, which is exactly what this father-slash-husband is planning on doing. Finally, Ragnir understands the situation, so Wazu assures him that his sin will be forgiven as long as he apologizes wholeheartedly to Mel, promises not to accept Karel's advances anymore, and takes good care of his wife. For now, Wazu needs to rest, especially because he ran all day, so the two engage in a manly discussion about the human's harem progress, and why Wazu doesn't have a lover even though he understands a woman's mind. Unfortunately, the topic is too bitter for Wazu to handle, which leads Ragnir to assume that this young man will become popular when turned into a dragon. That's not the case for sure. As soon as morning arrives, Wazu carries the Dragon King with his 2 hands and plans to do the world's fastest delivery in history, despite the obvious confusion and lack of consent from the Dragon King. And Wazu ignores his words to throw Ragnir from the mountain straight to the hill where Mel is waiting. This way, the Dragon King will reach the destination before Wazu, but the adventurer remembers he needs to witness their talk as his promise to Mel, so he hurriedly runs toward the faraway cave on the hill. Upon entering, he immediately asks the two if they have reconciled, only to see Ragnir lowering his head to not just 1, but 2 white dragons. Right when Wazu thinks that the stranger beside Mel is Karel, he hears her calling the Dragon Queen daughter. and remembers Mel mentioning she contacts her mother. Eventually, Wazu joins the conversation as if saying he's here now, so Mare rushes to him with an instant embrace, stealing the attention of Ragnir's mother-in-law, who stares at Wazu as if measuring his strength. In the end, she fails to measure the limit of the adventurer's power, but that itself is enough to convince her that trusting Mir to him is the correct choice. Not to mention Mel is planning to have the two married when her daughter reaches the right age. Of course, the father will not consent to the idea, but it seems like her mother-in-law possesses the better authority here. After all, this old dragon presents herself as the former dragon queen, Maegal, which explains why Ragnir is doubling down on being respectful here. In reply, Wazu helps the Dragon King to explain the cheating incident, but it seems like the guy has stepped on a landmine and reignited the two's rage. It turns out, however, that Mel already knows about the misunderstanding, and she feels dissatisfied because instead of apologizing on his own, Ragnir's words are full of "Wazu threw me here. Wazu told me to say that, yada yada." Finally, Wazu can't take it anymore as he begs for them to make up already, so he asks permission to talk with Ragnir alone. On their one-on-one talk, Wazu learns that Ragnir's pride is in tatters after saying sorry. But the second phase comes next, as Wazu advises the Dragon King to go along with all of his wife's whims. Of course, the young man has no experience doing that because he doesn't really have a lover, and this advice is apparently his dad's favorite saying. Nonetheless, Wazu asks if high-class restaurants for dragons exist, given that the next plan is to have Ragnir treat his wife to delicious food. Unfortunately, those establishments don't exist for dragons, but it's mysteriously not a problem to Ragnir. Thus, he goes back to Mel and Maegal, kneeling down as he seriously apologizes to the two for all the troubles and promises to refuse any contact with Karel by introducing her to other male dragons. Moreover, he swears to deepen his relationship with Mel and take better care of it, ultimately inviting the two to the human town of Linux as a token of apology. Fortunately, his wish to give them time to rest their body by enjoying the scenery and food in that particular city convinces Mel that her husband has become thoughtful. Starting with the current Dragon Queen, the former also accepts the invitation, but she will not spare Ragnir from a reminder not to forget about the remorse he feels for this incident. Needless to say, the MVP title goes to Wazu, although the guy is still concerned about one more thing. How will they enter the city with their enormous sizes? As a result, Maegal makes it clear that they're not your run-of-the-mill dragons, and shifting their forms is basically a walk in the park. With that said, the three dragons recite a chant in unison, causing some kind of censorship lights to envelop their bodies as they eventually turn into their gallant, gorgeous human forms, which look like they appear straight out of a novel. Basically, bask in their beauty for a few seconds. Wazu was already doing that, but it seems like shock and not admiration is the one overwhelming him. Putting that aside, Maegal urges Wazu to lead the way toward the fortress town of Linux. But he checks one more thing first. Why isn't Mir transforming? I bet some of you here hope to see her human form, but not this time around. Meanwhile, Salona is still on the hunt to find Wazu and return his guild card, even though 10 days have already passed since she left the village. Unfortunately, Salona still has no clues about where Wazu currently is, so she realizes the possibility of him riding on a ship to go somewhere far. Of course, that is immediately discarded because Salona has his guild card, which leaves her with one more possible place to go: the Linux town. Lady Elf can't help but think of the upcoming happy days of going along with the human's journey and the intimate time they will surely share when night arrives. But Salona immediately erases those thoughts from her mind due to excessive embarrassment. However, the elf realizes that Wazu might have already formed his harem, which worries Salona, making her wonder if she really has the right to join Wazu when the one who rejected him in the first place is her. Right when the regret crushes Salona, she hears somebody's conversation talking about the bread and why the girl, who turns out to be Lula, orders them every morning despite the far distance from their inn. Their dad approved. Reagan seems to like them, apparently, so Lula leaves the shop with a smile, passing by Salona and hearing the rumble of her stomach. Lady Elf is undeniably embarrassed, but thankfully, Lula handles it by offering a piece of bread to Salona, who's having doubts because she knows these foods need to be delivered. With pure, uncorrupted eyes, Lula confesses her sin of secretly nibbling one or two of these breads every day. She also refuses the elf's payment and, as usual, invites her to stay in their inn instead, bragging that it has the best lodging and food in Linux town. Afterward, they introduce themselves to one another, allowing Lula to confirm that Salona is a real elf, which makes her excited because it's rare to see one of their races. With that said, Salona reveals her reason for leaving their village and her plan to go to Linux to find the man she's looking for. Per Lula's request, Solona tells the girl about the person's characteristics, saying he's aloof, kind, and strong among other things, but then blushes upon revealing he's also a cute guy. She already spouts those words before knowing that Lula wants to know the physical appearance to help her find him, leading Lady Elf to panic while revealing all the outward clues she can think of, especially the thing about the small dragon resting on the guy's head. Thanks to that, Lula assumes that the cute little monster is Mir and that the person being discussed is none other than Wazu. Undoubtedly, the poster girl hits right on the right mark, so she informs the elf about Wazu's situation and what he is currently doing, which leads Salona's knees to weaken in relief and excitement that she can finally meet Wazu again. Therefore, Lula urges Solona to hurry and asks her out of curiosity if she uses a fast travel skill to go all the way here, but then learns that Solona simply walks. You sure love Wazu, huh? Salona's embarrassment goes out of control after hearing very similar words from Lula, so she tells the poster girl that her heart is not yet ready to join that guy's harem. Furthermore, Solona is under the assumption that Wazu has already found a new partner, so Lula informs her that he's traveling alone with Mir and no one else. Salona's reaction? 10 out of 10 tsundere worthy. Still, Lady Elf can't help but feel anxious if Wazu will really accept her again, and in the fortunate chance that he does, will they hold hands while going on adventures with just the two of them? Her heart beats rapidly simply by thinking about it, showing absolutely no signs of stopping anytime soon, because this maiden in love is overwhelmed with happiness after all. As they get closer and closer to the fortress town, Lula sees somebody's shadows not far from them, and catches sight of Wazu among the four walking toward the gates of Linek. Needless to say, Salona's cheeks turn redder as she fidgets from nervousness, but what she learns afterward will serve as a great shock. Walking side by side with Wazu are 3 royals who are all gorgeous and strong-looking, perfectly fit to be Wazu's companions. That is exactly what Solona assumes as her vision partially darkens, even though she views this as a matter of fact, because Wazu's strength and personality deserve to have new friends. There's nothing strange about it, and Solona knows that, but she refuses Lula's encouragement to rush at the guy she's been looking for this whole time, reminding herself that her only motive is to return the guild card. Solona passes the task to Lula and immediately leaves, ignoring the calls of the confused poster girl as she dashes away from the area. After running for quite a long time, Solona stops upon reaching a large tree, panting as she regrets her actions and wonders why it is impossible for her current self to nonchalantly call Wazu out, apologize to him, and then ask to join his adventures. Unfortunately, it's all in hindsight now, as Solona burrows herself in regrets, frustration, and loneliness while thinking about Wazu. Under the giant tree, the elf lady bursts into tears, unable to endure the aching pain in her chest as she tries her hardest to stop the overflowing tears, finally realizing that she has fallen in love with Wazu. As I thought, Tia-san is the best elf. In the Adventurers Guild, however, Reigen is having the dilemma of his life as he can't believe Wazu's saying that these 3 right here with him are the Dragon King's family. Having no other choice, Megal instructs her son-in-law to undo his transformation, which results in a sudden tremor in the building. Moreover, Reigen finally believes Wazu's story, although in a hard way, as he begs Ragnir to turn into a human again because this sight is practically terrifying for him. With this, Wazu successfully completes the quest, so the rewards will surely come his way. But before that, he asks the innmaster for some nice restaurants within the town first. In the end, it is decided that Reigen will guide them personally tomorrow, so Wazu whispers a wee bit of motivation to Ragnir before inviting them to stay at the Breeze of Light Inn. What comes after, however, is Lula's unexpected news about her encounter with Solona. Wazu immediately receives the guild card from the inn's poster girl, erasing all the cheerfulness he had earlier as Wazu learns that Solona came here but is not near the city anymore. The following day, the female dragons are having fun touring around the city with Kayla and Emma as their guide, sightseeing, and window shopping for shoes that they unfortunately can't wear in their original size. With Kayla's recommendation, they then head to a shooting range where Megal showcases her mastery as she hits every toy target. Next up, Mel attempts to shoot with her eyes closed, only to fail and be saddened in the end, causing the kind shopkeeper to give her a consolation prize to diminish the dejection she harbors. As the tour continues, they pass by a grand building when Emma suddenly whispers to Kayla that revealing its identity, especially to Mel, is a bad idea. Therefore, Kayla urges them to proceed by introducing the building as a mere house when, in reality, it is the most prestigious cat house in the whole town. On the men's side, Ragnir is in the restaurant ordering all the fancy food he thinks Mel and Megal will like, to the point that Reigen thinks the Dragon King is going a bit overboard here. Still, Wazu leaves the outfit assignment to the guildmaster because he needs to go somewhere, but seeing Ragnir cry due to his absence forces the adventurer to stay a little bit longer to assure the Dragon King that everything will be fine. On another note, Reigen tells Wazu that he'll help re-register his guild card tomorrow, enabling the adventurer to leave, albeit remembering his bitter thoughts as to why Salona doesn't meet him despite coming here. Little did Wazu know he had forgotten someone all this time, and that was the goddess who was already labeling him as cruel. In response, he asks why Salona left earlier, but that is the last thing the attention-seeking goddess wants to hear right now. Regardless, she asks if Wazu has made new comrades, and eventually finds out that he's just the dragon family's guide. So Salona just misunderstands the situation. Also, it seems like the goddess is sensing someone or somebody ominous here in Linnectown. Meanwhile, Ragnar watches his efforts prosper in the restaurant, as Mel and Meggle enjoy the meals he handpicks for them. Furthermore, they are asking for seconds, or how many servings it is now that Emma doesn't want to imagine the bill anymore. Fortunately, this whole thing leads Mel to forgive her husband and decides to forget this accident as she then pouts while giving Ragnar a cute warning not to repeat his sins. With a hug and a bit of sweet "I love you," the case closes, and it is Meggle approved. The following day, another not-so-bright time arrives for the crying Wazu, who's complaining why his reward is only 5 golds when it should be 30. Well, according to Emma, the guildmaster deducts a total of 25 gold coins to pay for the dragon family's payment for feast, lodgings, and other expenses. Let's just look at the bright side. Thankfully, Emma informs Wazu that he's promoted to C rank, which enables him to take more quests and obviously higher rewards. It's not a surprise for Emma, though, knowing that Wazu is absurdly strong, that he can talk to dragon royals like it's natural and not take the severe tests for promotion. Now that the guild card issue has been fixed, Emma informs the adventurer that Reigen is planning to take him to a quote-unquote nice place, as thanks for yesterday. Unfortunately, Wazu has no idea what she means, even when the receptionist refers to it as a go-to place for boys like him at night. As a result, he returns to the inn with a catchphrase like it's his home, and fortunately, it is not a problem for Kayla, leading Wazu to ask if he can leave Mir to her because Reigen is calling him. Therefore, Kayla advises his live-in bodyguard to entrust the dragon princess to the tenant next door, as it turns out that they are Ragnar, his wife and mother-in-law, living there. Well, seeing them here causes Wazu to realize that the lodging fee he covers with the quest reward is exactly this, so Mel thanks him for paying for all their expenses, and that calms Wazu down. Aren't royals wealthy? Oh well. Afterward, Wazu leaves Mir to her family, but it seems like the dragon princess knows what place he is heading to, because she's not letting go of him. In the end, Wazu tells her some reassuring words and leaves the dragon princess on the verge of crying, as he eventually enters the carriage where Reigen is waiting for him. On the way, they talk about the entertainment district and where in the world will the guild master bring Wazu until they finally arrive in that exact place, as Reigen reveals his plan of rewarding the young man with introductions to some women. Wazu panics, and he begs the guildmaster to invite Ragnar instead if he wants to cheat on Kayla. But of course, Reigen's intention here is to purely visit the facility's owner. However, his wish for Wazu is to be an adult and admit to enjoying their services before, only to find out that his cherry hasn't popped in his entire life yet. Well, sorry for being a cherry boy, Wazu gloomily says. Ignoring his mental and emotional agony, Reigen knocks on the door and sees Garrett, his and Kayla's former adventuring comrade and the owner of this nice place at night, like what Emma calls it. Reigen then presents the young adventurer with absurd achievements, so Garrett shakes his hand with pleasure and urges the two to come in. Thus, Reigen reveals that it is Wazu's first time in a place like this, which means the young man will turn into an adult anytime soon, because the choices are already lined up for him to decide who among them will become the cherry popper. However, his inner dilemma leads Wazu to remember Salona, awakening his bitter mood until the most beautiful flower arrives, walking down the stairs and volunteering to be the cherry boy's partner for tonight. Immediately, her face rings a bell to Wazu as he instantly recognizes Tata, who, on the other hand, is quite pleased that the boy remembers him. They tell Garrett about their meeting in the middle of the girl's escape from her pursuers, but it seems like Tata wants them to level up from being mere acquaintances to an intimate relationship. With that said, she pulls off the legendary move of, "Am I not good enough?" So Wazu tells her it's not true, and gulps the glass of booze out of embarrassment. Little does he know that they're having a conversation out there about Tata wanting to build some connection with the strong adventurer. Well, he'll have no way of hearing that now, as he passes out after drinking a few more glasses. The next thing Wazu sees when he wakes up is not an unfamiliar ceiling, but a soft-looking jiggle of a woman's bosom as he finds himself sitting on Tata's lap in her bed. With a teaseful smirk, Tata greets the cherry boy for waking up, but that leads Wazu to panic, assuming he already did the deed with the woman. That's not yet the case, of course, as Tata gives Wazu a glass of water and tells him that Reigen has already left. Thus, after confirming that Wazu is perfectly okay, Tata starts her night endeavors as the boy's cherry popper, but it seems like the guy himself is too embarrassed to do it. Of course, Tata continues tempting Wazu as she leans closer to the adventurer with the aim of getting to know him better, both emotionally and physically. Wazu refuses her advances though, so Tata assumes that he isn't interested in women and swings in a different direction. But that's not the case either, because Wazu simply wants them to chat, especially because their aim is to get to know one another. Along those words, Wazu covers Tata's chest with a blanket and reminds the woman to value her body more instead of offering it to him so easily. Tata giggles in reply to such manly words coming from a customer, thinking it's too ironic coming from a man who goes to their place late at night. But she shows a bright smile worthy to protect, thanks to Wazu's kindness. Consequently, Tata reveals tricking the cherry boy, saying she's been bugging Reagan to meet Wazu ever since she sees his fight against the Black Blaze. After all, she wishes to borrow the adventurer's strength for the reason that involves the pursuers who chased her the other day. Wazu instantly accepts but refuses the reward from Tata, assuming she's referring to money when the truth is something as dense as he wouldn't understand. Grabbing her shoulders, Wazu assures Tata that he won't leave someone with such a lonely expression, just like her, alone. The red-faced woman pouts as she teasingly comments about her having a lonely face, trying so hard to contain her embarrassment due to Wazu seeing right through her feelings. As the giggles go on, Tata tells Wazu about her story, revealing she's working in this place to pay for her father's debt, and the pursuers are actually the collectors who'll do anything to forcibly take her away, which leads Tata to call for Wazu's help out of desperation. In response, the adventurer volunteers to talk and possibly threaten the creditor so Tata can return to her parents again. But it seems like the consequences for Wazu will be more severe as Tata stops him, because she doesn't want Wazu to be banned from staying in this city. With that said, all Tata wishes is for the adventurer to protect her from the debt collectors, while she pays the debt of her father, taking back the freedom she lost with her own two hands. Hearing the girl's determined wish, Wazu promises not to interfere, but still reminds Tata to call him right away when danger ensues because he will come flying to save her right away. Furthermore, Wazu gives his full support to the girl's determination, making Tata so delighted that she thanks the young man from the bottom of her heart. Hands down, Lady Elf might lose this time. Thereafter, Wazu reveals his aim to form a harem, albeit reluctantly, leading Tata to volunteer to be the first member, although she, unfortunately, takes it back, assuming Wazu thinks she's dirty. "Wait, that's not true at all," says the adventurer, who refuses her advances and continues spending the night with an enjoyable talk about the restaurants, scenic spots, and the fortress town of Linux, just passing the time until the night ends. Morning arrives, and Tata is the first to wake up, immediately surveying her body to see if there are signs that Wazu has done something to her last night. Upon checking, however, she finds out that the cherry boy didn't do anything during their time together, causing her to blush and fluster. She then glances at the principled adventurer's sleeping face and remembers his reminder to value her body more because he deems it as important, which leads Tata's happiness to reach sky high, delighted as it is her first time to meet someone so caring to her. Eventually, Wazu wakes up from his slumber only to see that Tata isn't there anymore, and she instead leaves her business card to tell Wazu to come back again so she can once again listen to his stories. All seems well until a moody Nekomimi girl, who will be called Nenya, blocks his way to warn Wazu not to get into his big head because Tata surely doesn't take a quote-unquote plain-faced nobody like Wazu seriously. Not the Nekomimi girl you expect? I might agree. Nonetheless, her insults pierce into Wazu's heart, not to mention Nenya orders him not to come to this place again, but then learns about the business card that Tata rarely gives to others. Still, she's not in favor of a random guy possibly staining her and Tata's plans, so Nenya kicks Wazu away from their establishment. Turns out the Beast Girl can't trust the adventurer no matter how strong he is and declares she's the only one who can protect Tata. Finally, Wazu returns to Mare, who is unsurprisingly sulking, leading the adventurer to assume she's jealous, so he receives some dragon scratches on his face. As an apology, Wazu promises to treat her in a place Tata has talked about, but he instead receives more claw outbursts because saying another girl's name is, of course, taboo. Speaking of the woman, Tata, along with Nenya, coincidentally meets them on the streets, given they will go shopping while Wazu is in the middle of a date with Mir. Therefore, Tata uses this opportunity to introduce Nenya as her bodyguard, but the cat-eared girl refuses any handshake from Wazu and suddenly goes to Mir to play with the dragon princess for a while. Before she leaves, Nenya urges the cherry boy to be a man and get closer to Tata, unexpectedly becoming a wing-woman for the two to have some alone time. Thus, Wazu accompanies Tata to different shopping places for clothes, cosmetics, and accessories, not just for her, but as gifts for the girls in the mansion too. Eventually, they enter a small jewelry store, but this is preferable for Tata, as she thinks this store is more careful with their products compared to others. Along the shopping, however, Wazu senses somebody's gaze coming from the dark alley, so he stares at it for who knows how many seconds and sees someone's shadow that seems like escaping. Wazu immediately heads out and tells Tata not to go outside for the time being. Then, he approaches the men hiding in the alleyway, asking if they are the debt collectors. However, one of them replies with his fist, confident he can take the guy down and capture Tata because Nenya is not here. Wazu lightly kicks him though, and that's the end for the villain and his teammates because they're the next targets for the young adventurer who strikes them away without difficulties whatsoever. But now that the nuisances are lying unconscious on the ground, Nenya makes her appearance, glaring at Wazu as she confirms he's stronger than her initial expectations. Wazu is taken aback seeing the beast folk here, but it turns out she has no evil plans, given that Mir returns safely, and Nenya is just testing if Wazu can really be entrusted with Tata.